While the British defence industry spent years struggling over blueprints, an ordinary engineer named Delisle was scavenging through a backyard junk pile. He stuffed cocoa tins with old rags, creating a technology that would later allow saboteurs to eliminate entire garrisons without making a single sound. The entire secret of this legendary carbine began with a mundane bloodlust for rodents. Delisle was obsessed with stealth hunting. For years, he culled rabbits in his garden, using homemade silencers crafted from scrap. When he adapted his chocolate tin to a rifle firing a .22 caliber rimfire round, the shot became quieter than a clap of hands. To prove the power of this contraption to the military, Delisle and Major Campbell climbed onto a roof in central London and systematically began firing into the Thames. Below, life went on as usual, and despite a killing machine operating directly over their heads, no one even turned their head. It was a triumph of DIY craftsmanship. A lone individual from a junkyard delivered a result that factories had failed to produce for decades. However, the kitchen genius nearly ruined the project at its start. As soon as military officials demanded his silencer be paired with a powerful 9mm round, the rifle began to roar like a beast. To save the weapon from the scrap heap, Delisle had to strike a deal with a caliber favored by American gangsters. Delisle's first combat prototype shrieked so loudly that sentries could have heard it in their sleep. The standard army cartridge turned the silent miracle into a loud firecracker, nearly ending the designer's career. The problem lay in physics, which the military ignored. The 9mm Parabellum army cartridge exited the barrel faster than the speed of sound. As soon as the bullet broke the barrier, it created a sharp crack, and no silencer, even one as large as a leg, could hide it. Delisle struggled desperately to choke the 9mm caliber, but the laws of nature cannot be bribed. It was either silence with a weak bullet or a loud shot with stopping power. Saboteurs needed both at once. The project was a step away from cancellation when the engineer was struck by an epiphany. He shouldn't fight speed, he just needed a cartridge that was lazy by nature. The solution came from across the ocean. Delisle realized that to turn the carbine into the perfect executioner, he needed to use the cartridge American mobsters used to blow out the brains of their rivals in the back alleys of Chicago. A heavy bullet weighing 230 grains flies toward the target slowly, like a stone thrown by a skilled hand. Yet it takes out its target with the first hit without making a single unnecessary sound. It was the perfect choice for a professional executioner, a cartridge that kills silently simply because it is too lazy to make noise. William Delisle instantly cracked the main ballistic trick. Instead of wasting resources trying to slow down a fast bullet, one simply needs to take the one that is in no hurry to begin with. The American .45 ACP caliber, a longtime favorite of Chicago gangsters and US Marines, fit this purpose perfectly. This bullet is subsonic by birthright. It does not need to break the sound barrier with the roar of a jet plane, creating that characteristic revealing crack. It exits the barrel leisurely, carrying colossal kinetic energy capable of instantly stopping even the toughest, most adrenaline-pumped opponent. The secret lies in its mass. A massive piece of lead, weighing nearly 15 grams, hits the target at short distances like a blacksmith's hammer. With the advent of this carbine, saboteurs no longer had to choose between stealth and stopping power. Now they could pierce helmets and skulls while remaining in absolute shadow. The weapon turned into a kind of silent syringe, delivering a lethal injection of lead without unnecessary fanfare. However, to prevent this destructive power from tearing the fragile construction apart, Delisle had to resort to extreme measures and create a true Frankenstein's monster. He began systematically raiding British weapon depots, cutting parts from legendary rifles and pistols to assemble the most bizarre hybrid in the history of world wars. Look closely at this carbine. Here is the bolt from a defective British rifle, a piece of a barrel from an American Thompson, and a magazine from a Colt pistol. Before you is not a product of high technology, but perhaps the most expensive and deadliest scrap heap in world history. At the Ford plant in Dagenham, the carbines were literally assembled from what had been deemed unfit for the main front. William Delisle did not shy away from anything, turning production into an art of recycling. The bolt group was borrowed from the good old Lee Enfield rifle, but was subjected to a ruthless execution. It was shortened by nearly 5 centimeters, and the extractor was crudely modified for the rimless .45 caliber cartridge. The magazine well was widened with an ordinary file so that the magazine from the legendary Colt M1911 would fit, even if it creaked. Even the bolt handle knob was covered in thick rubber, not for the shooter's comfort, but solely so that a saboteur would not give away his position with a metallic clang when reloading in the dead silence of the night. This was an absolute triumph of engineering audacity. Out of scraps, surpluses, and outright defects came a tool that worked significantly quieter and more accurately than any mass-produced factory equivalent of the time. However, all this junk construction served as only a frame for the main diamond, a massive steel tube inside of which DeLisle built a literal labyrinth for death, causing the red-hot powder gases to practically go insane. Inside the massive steel casing are hidden 13 duralumin discs that transform the fierce energy of the shot into a barely audible hiss. This is not just a tube at the end of the barrel. It is the literal intestines of a mechanical monster, in whose labyrinths the sound suffocates and dies in agony. The DeLisle's integrated silencer is a specimen of engineering madness, for which collectors today are willing to pay fortunes at private auctions. The design consisted of a huge expansion chamber that took up a good half of the weapon's total length. Inside it, William DeLisle placed a complex system of 13 baffles, each exquisitely bent at a strictly calculated angle. The idea was truly ingenious. The red-hot powder gases were not simply vented outward, but were drawn into a frantic spiral, repeatedly striking the walls of the discs and rapidly losing their energy before ever leaving the muzzle. At the output, the shooter received a noise level of around 85 decibels, quieter than the whistle of a boiling kettle on the next burner. There was no betraying flash in the night, no revealing clouds of powder smoke, and no frightening roar. There was only the dry, barely perceptible click of the working mechanism, which completely dissolved into the background noise of the jungle or a night city. However, this extreme stealth came at the price of a critically low level of reliability. The carbine turned out to be such a temperamental psychopath that at the most dramatic moment of a fight, it could simply choke on a round, instantly turning an elite saboteur into a defenseless and easy target. In the movies, the DeLisle is a flawless liquidation tool that works like a Swiss watch. But in harsh reality, a Special Forces soldier could die simply because his carbine choked 5 meters away from the enemy. This silent genius had a shamefully foul temper and a tendency toward betrayal at the most critical moment. This entire Frankenstein, hastily assembled from scraps of rifles of different systems, operated on the edge of an engineering foul. The DeLisle's main curse was the ammunition feed system. The shortened Enfield bolt often flatly refused to chamber the wide and heavy .45 caliber bullet, and the crudely modified extractor spat out spent casings only every other time, causing dead jams. Imagine a classic situation. A saboteur stalks a sentry for hours, catches the moment, pulls the trigger. A dry click is heard, and silence. But not the kind he was counting on. The bolt is jammed tight, and the soldier is left holding nothing but an expensive and utterly useless stick. It was because of these chronic infant illnesses that the contract for truly mass production was terminated as soon as the intensity of silent operations on the coast subsided. Regular units did not need a temperamental device that required affection and a file. They needed a reliable steel hammer. However, the few specimens that did function properly performed a true session of bloody exorcism on the Nazis and the Japanese. Axis soldiers fell into deep paranoia as their comrades dropped dead without a single sound of a shot, as if struck down by death itself. The Imperial Japanese forces in the jungles of Burma were genuinely convinced they were being hunted by forest demons. Soldiers would drop dead in the middle of a conversation, and their comrades standing just a step away wouldn't hear so much as the familiar whistle of a bullet. Only the eerie, dull thud of heavy lead hitting human flesh. The DeLisle carbine became the perfect executioner for night raids, turning into a living nightmare within the stifling thickets of Southeast Asia and the dense forests of occupied France. A tiny production run, only about 130 units, instantly elevated this weapon to the status of a mythical artifact. British commandos utilized it for the most surgical and dirty tasks. the precision liquidation of high-ranking officers, taking out sentries at strategic radio stations, and the silent annihilation of outposts before the main assault began. The design allowed for work at almost point-blank range, while the shooter remained completely invisible to the enemy. Archives record instances where sabotage groups methodically mowed down entire patrols, and not a single enemy soldier ever managed to realize from which direction death had arrived. The Delisle was an instrument of not just physical, but psychological terror. The sticky, paralyzing fear of a silent enemy broke the psyches of hardened fighters far more effectively than the heaviest artillery barrage. But today this legend has turned into a fabulously expensive exhibit hunted by the wealthiest collectors on the planet. Why does a modern replica of this garage-built pipe cost as much as a brand new foreign car from a dealership? Paying $6,500 for a barrel that sounds like a child's air rifle. Enterprising Americans have turned an old British secret into an elite business for those who crave silent status in their gun safe. The company US Armament correctly calculated that nostalgia for precision liquidations is an excellent commodity. They recreated the Delisle from scratch, using modern alloys and high-precision machining, while carefully preserving that same deliberately junkyard design of the Second World War era. This weapon is a total paradox. It is heavy, weighing over 4 kilograms, fabulously expensive, and absolutely useless for serious hunting or real self-defense. It is bought for one single sensation, that dry, almost ghostly click that 80 years ago meant instant death for Third Reich sentries. To comply with their occasionally idiotic laws and save buyers from extra short-barreled rifle taxes, the Americans permanently welded the barrel to the massive body of the integrated silencer. It is now an expensive fetish for wealthy history buffs that, unlike the authentic original, at least doesn't jam every 3 shots. But while collectors brag about their shiny replicas, the very original from which this entire silent epic began has become the primary subject of the most shameful heist in British museum history. Here is a masterpiece of purely British absurdity. The very first Delisle carbine, assembled by the designer's own hands and presented as a gift to the state, simply vanished from the country's primary military museum. Security guards, electronic surveillance systems, and the strictest storage protocols proved utterly powerless in the face of mundane bureaucratic negligence. In the twilight of his life, William Delisle decided to make a grand and noble gesture. He donated the priceless prototype No. 1 to the National Army Museum in London. This was not just a weapon, it was a true relic, the very specimen the inventor had once used to conduct his daring test shots directly into the Thames, right under the noses of ministry officials. However, it turns out that British museum clerks can be far more dangerous than Nazi bullets. They managed to simply lose the unique exhibit within the depths of their archives. The rarity, whose black market value today would easily exceed hundreds of thousands of pounds sterling, disappeared without a trace. To this day, no one knows if it continues to gather dust in an anonymous crate beneath a pile of old greatcoats, or if it has long since graced the private collection in the underground bunker of some anonymous billionaire. The quietest carbine in human history left in English style, without making a sound, leaving a trace, or offering any hope of return. The legacy of the genius who gave the British Secret Service's invisibility was incompetently flushed away by ordinary officials. While historians tear their hair out in rage, Russian gun enthusiasts are left with a very specific practical question. Is there any legal way at all to put this piece of history in your safe without fearing a sudden visit from special forces at 3 in the morning? Do you dream of placing a living legend in your gun safe that clicks quieter than your fingers? In Russia, attempting to transform into a silent commando is a walk on thin ice. Without knowledge of the nuances of our harsh and sometimes paradoxical legislation, the path to your dream might end not at the firing range, but in a prison cell. From the perspective of the Russian legal field, the original Delisle carbine is not just an antique, but a literal legal landmine. The letter of the law explicitly prohibits the installation of silencers, PBS, on civilian weapons. However, a grey area exists here. Integrated systems that are documented as sound moderators, simulators, or non-removable barrel components that reduce sound pressure to a safe level. An attempt to import an authentic American replica priced at $6,500 is doomed to fail. Customs and certification authorities will reject the package faster than you can reach for your passport. The only realistic path for an enthusiast is to seek out domestic licensed master gunsmiths who create civilian carbines based on the Delisle using VPO or other available platforms. But be extremely cautious. Any attempt to tweak the design to match the original specifications automatically strips you of your collector status and moves you into the category of a criminal suspect for the manufacturing of special technical equipment. In the Russian reality, silence is an elite commodity, and sometimes its price is measured not in rubles, but in years of freedom. But is the game worth the candle and the risk worth your reputation if the entire aura of this carbine is merely a masterfully inflated myth, carefully cultivated on the pages of old newspapers and in the imaginations of romantic historians? Delisle did not win World War II single-handedly. He did something more subtle. He made the Crown's enemies fear silence itself. His carbine proved a vital point. To be immortalized in the annals of military history, one does not need to churn out millions of weapons. A mere 100 ghosts are enough to haunt an enemy's nightmares, turning every rustle of leaves into a harbinger of inevitable doom. The story of the Delisle carbine is not a dull report filled with dry technical specifications. It is a true anthem to engineering audacity and the triumph of DIY genius. A weapon born in a garage and literally assembled on a workbench from machine gun barrel scraps and empty cocoa tins became an absolute symbol of the era. It was a time when a single individual with a clear mind and skilled hands could fundamentally change the rules of the great game. Yes, the Delisle was temperamental. Yes, its mechanisms occasionally jammed, and unique specimens were later incompetently lost in dusty museum archives or settled into private collections without a trace.